Gonzalo Higuain, and it's buried in the top corner. Campana, and again.
No question about it. I am ready to get hurt again.
The Herons are back. Welcome everyone to episode 33 of Battered Herons. It's a little mishap there. I'm not sure where I went for a second. Welcome to episode number 33. I am your host, Daniel Granada. Gonna toss it over to Chris while I set myself up again because I just threw myself off. How you doing, Chris?
Yeah, man. And it's Wu-Tang Wednesday, like every other Wednesday. And luckily for today's episode, we have a very special guest. One half of Futbol Miami TV. You can find them on Twitter and YouTube. And thankfully, we have Pieter Brown on the show with us. Peter, how are you, man?
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.
You can catch what? You're on every Sunday at 7 or 8 o'clock?
Every Sunday nights at 7 p.m. We do a live show similar to yours. And yeah, we have some fun.
I was rocking my Miami Fusion jersey in honor of Pieter Brown because I know he is one of the OGs, and we're going to get into that in a second. But before we do, I wanted to talk Valentine's Day because it's Valentine's Day yesterday. It's a very special day. Spent it with my wife. Chris, I know you spent it with yours. Pieter Brown, I'm not sure if you have a significant other.
You, my wife.
So happy Valentine's Day to everybody except for Phil Neville because apparently he hates love. Oh, what's up with that, Chris? Why does he hate Valentine's Day?
I don't get it. I mean, well, I think on the tweet he mentioned that it should be every single day.
I think it's that grumpy English thing, no?
I think it might be. I mean, what do you think, Peter? I mean, he just completely hates on Valentine's Day here.
So I didn't hear what he said, but I'm going to go on a limb and say maybe he's saying something like, why are we celebrating one day the love of your life when you should be celebrating that every day? Your woman is worth being celebrated every day. Why are you buying her flowers and chocolates on that one day of the year, and kissing her butt that one day of the year? Give her a little love all year, and then you don't need to do so much on that one day.
I think he just sounds like a grumpy Englishman, honestly. I just don't get it. Why he should be saying this he should curse Valentine's Day every day of the year if that's the case. I'm all into Valentine's Day. I'm all into special occasions, and that just struck me as kind of weird. Another special occasion. Happy birthday, Pizarro. I'm not sure how old he is. Hopefully this is the last birthday he spent with us, though. Ooh. No offense, Pizarro.
Hey, he's got a chance.
Yes, a chance to
do something to revitalize his career, to make the whole thing worthwhile. Hey, look, I'm sorry if I take this show on tangents. That's kind of what I do.
No, but that's fine.
But Higuain sucked except for that last year. So, maybe Pizarro's got that chance. He's got a chance to redeem himself.
Well, yeah, I think that if there's like I mentioned in another episode, I think if there's any time that he can be able to redeem himself, it's right now, right? Absolutely. Especially since he legitimately is down in the dumps in terms of being favored on this team. So, and now that Higuain's not here, I'm pretty sure he's starting to understand, hey, I can make a big difference on this team. I mean, what do you think, Danny? I mean, do you think that Bizarro is just staying here rent-free for the year and that's it?
I like to think that he cost very much a lot. He cost us $12 million to get him over here. No, I'd like to think that whenever a player hits the pitch, they're gonna bust their ass and try their hardest always. But I think because he had such a rough go in Mexico, he's coming out with a point to prove. One of the things that we always said about him was not only does he just stand on the ball and just runs around in circles, but he doesn't track back on defense a lot, right? He's not box to box. And I think you might see a little more effort out of him this year because he has something to prove. Not only does he have a reputation to save, but I mean, if he wants a big contract coming up next year, probably not from us, but from anyone, he's going to have to prove something on the field this year. So I definitely think he has something to prove. And like you said, this is the perfect time to do it.
He's been humbled.
Right, so for 100%, he's been humbled. Hopefully we see that stupid smile celebration thing he does a little more this year. All right. So Pieter Brown.
Yes, sir.
I watch, and if anybody listening doesn't, Futbol Miami TV every Sunday. I usually catch the replays because Sundays I'm usually out with the family. But we watch you guys all the time. And I was talking to Chris just not too long ago about how you guys are often bringing up how you guys were into this 20 years ago.
Yeah.
You were in supporters groups. You guys were pushing for teams. We had the fusion. You were involved with that. They left. You kept pushing for teams. But you guys never really dive into it, at least not recently, because I just started watching you guys not too long ago. So maybe in the past you did, but not recently. So we were talking and we wanted to have you on because we kind of wanted to get that backstory, because I don't know how long it's been since you told it. And I don't know how many people actually know, the South Florida history of soccer. And I know you're probably one of the better people to talk about that than with anybody else. So I wanted to see if maybe you can give us a little history lesson.
Yeah, I think we probably don't talk about it too much because we just assume people, at least that are been with us a while have heard it a bunch of times. Right. But yeah, if you think about the history of soccer though in South Florida, the first thing is I used to always just kind of envision there's a graveyard with a bunch of tombstones with a bunch of team names on them. From the
you're so right,
Toros to to the Strikers, to, on and on and on, to the Gatos before the beginning of that. But I started off just being a fan of the Fort Lauderdale Strikers in the 70s. I'm a lot older than you guys probably. And, so as a kid, grew up watching that died, right? Then we get the fusion, your beautiful shirt you're wearing, Daniel, but which got right here as well.
There you go.
I brought props.
They should bring that back. They should bring it like on a retro night.
I got thoughts on that. It'll never happen with the fusion, I don't think. But it should happen with the Strikers. They should buy the Strikers name. It's dirt cheap. The guy from Tampa, at last I heard, still owns it, Bill Edwards. And so, buy that Strikers and use the Strikers. They're never going to admit their failures with the fusion, so that's gone. I think that name's dead and buried. But anyways.
For whose failures? It's not Jorge Mas's failure.
No. The leagues.
Oh, the league. Got you. Understood.
They don't ever talk about the fusion or the mutiny. So,
But
and we won the supporter shield too.
I know.
And it's funny because, one of the things that Danny and I sort of speak a lot about is that I'm very new to the sport. I just got into this sport just about a year and a half ago. Became a supporter with Danny and decided to start going to games. My family and I, we love going to games. It's a very awesome environment. I've always heard of the Fusion, right? And that's the one team that sort of stood out in history, at least to me. But I really didn't know too much about it. I mean, I started doing some research, and there were teams even before that. And so I just wanted to know, like, how far back do you think a strong support system was in place for local teams here in South Florida?
So there was a strong supporters club group with the Fusion, with the Miami Fusion. I wanted to call it Fort Lauderdale Fusion because that's what it probably should have been called. Yeah. But they were the Fanaticos. It wasn't quite what it is today, but that's what they call themselves. And I wasn't a part of that. I tried to join in once, and I think I might have a similar problem today as I did then, in that it was only Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish, and I did not feel welcomed. Whereas this group, maybe because I know and I helped build it, I feel welcomed, right? But back then I didn't, and it wasn't that they weren't friendly. They handed me the sheet with the lyrics on it. They were friendly. I just didn't understand. So I went back to like the east or the west side, but that, and again, that died off. And so, 2001, that kind of died off. And then it left a lot of us just looking, right? And then a few years later, Miami FC turns up. And it's the not the current Miami FC, but the original, this Miami FC right here.
TV Miami FC. Look at this guy.
And
before
Miami
you keep
FC,
going, tell me you have that Miami FC jersey that has all the neighborhood names like Kendall, Brickell, Little Havana. Did you get that jersey from a couple years ago?
Well, that's the newer Miami FC.
Yeah. Oh, you don't. No. You never got involved with that Miami FC.
No, I did, and I have a handful of jerseys. I that was funny story.
He couldn't bring the whole closet out, I mean,
Yeah.
at that point, he's taking out a mobile closet, you know?
Yeah.
I'm just
I
impressed
do have
at
quite
how
a few old jerseys.
how much he supports all the South Florida soccer teams.
Yeah. But with Miami FC, like I said, there was a supporters group with Miami Fusion, but there really wasn't one with Miami FC, and it was never my intent to create a supporters club because I created the first one of this newer, these newer teams. I wasn't involved with the Miami Fusion supporters, but the way it all happened was just kind of funny. I created a website. I was learning about websites, and I was writing about the team, just playing around. And I do graphics. So I created a logo that said Supporters Club on it, just goofing around, not knowing that anybody could find this website. It wasn't promoting it. It was one of those earlier websites that had a very long URL and you couldn't find it, but somebody did find it. And they asked me, where do I join? And so my answer was, join what? And that guy was Julio Caballero, who is kind of really the godfather of all this down here. The guy that never lost hope and pushed and prodded. But and so he and I create the Miami Ultras, and sometimes it was 2, 3, 4 guys, and that's it. But it grew a little bit. We used to do MLS watch parties, and it was just me and him that would show up. Nobody cared. But
right.
But it was what we bonded over, wanting to see live soccer and also wanting to push to help to do whatever we could to bring MLS back. And so we did that. And like I said, Julio is like, I don't know, like an attack dog with this kind of stuff. He starts reaching out to any Miami millionaire, billionaire he could find. He makes contacts even and becomes friendly with Marcelo Clore. And they start talking. And next thing you know, Clore's putting in a bid to try to bring MLS with Barcelona. And so we were behind all that. And so we started off as Miami Ultras, but then we also kind of splintered off and just called it the MLS Miami bid. And that's all it was. And that was a group of people.
What time was that?
That was 2005, 6, something like that.
Wow, okay.
That's efficient though. That's straight to the point. We're here for this. We're trying to get that. We're trying to get a Miami team, back on the map.
I mean, we were this right here, MLS Miami. This is the scarf that we put on. Well, not the same exact scarf, but one of the that we put on Beckham when he came. They put on one like this for him.
Oh, nice.
And gave it to him. There's pictures of Julio and a few other guys, and Ed, my co-host, standing with Beckham wearing that scarf. But, the thing was, there was a lot of fans that just kind of wanted MLS. But what we were trying to do is do the work. We were out there. We had contacts in MLS. And so they printed up a bunch of flyers and gave them to us. We went to parks. Anytime there was a soccer festival of any kind, we were out there passing out MLS Miami bid flyers.
Yeah, just trying to get the community involved.
Drumming up. And they even bought us tickets to an FIU football match. Nice. And we went to the stadium and we're passing them out in the stadium. We're doing the legwork. We were Marcelo Clore's like guerrilla marketing, and I'm trying to pick up stuff because we even made this scarf, because we thought we were going to be where is that? It's hard to tell. In 2010, we made this scarf because we thought we were going to be Barcelona, Miami.
Oh, just a decade off.
Yeah. Because he was trying to partner with Barcelona, and we were really close. I was there at the announcement, met Laporta and all that. And that fell apart because the economy crashed. But, we kept pushing, and like some of us kind of gave up hope here and there, but someone like Julio never did. And so, we just kept building, and eventually we formed into the Southern Legion. I know I'm going on and on.
No,
go for it. But you know what? I feel like this is interesting because at the end of the day, I feel like whether you're an older fan of local, soccer, or a person like myself, this kind of stuff, it's nice to hear because you start to really get an idea of the fandom down here in South Florida. I mean, you just mentioned it yourself, right? Where there's a lot of people that were losing hope, but then you have a really strong group of people that decided, hey, I'm in this knee deep, and I want to make this happen. And it sort of builds a community within a community, but you're not being exclusive. You're trying to get as much people included as possible.
And at one point, even I lost some hope with it.
Yeah.
And
I can imagine.
I was supporting. At the end of the day, I want to see live soccer in my community, the highest level there is, right? And at that time, it was Miami FC, and that became the Fort Lauderdale Strikers.
Yeah.
And we got that. Actually, it's not that version. That's the old school version.
And that's one of the things that sort of attracted me as, oh, that's a nice jersey right there. Yeah. And that's one of the things that, to me, as a casual fan, attracted me in terms of what Inter Miami fandom has to offer, is that it does feel inclusive. It feels like, everybody wants you to be part of the community. Everybody wants to have a good time. It's all about the feels when you're in the park and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what really got me at first. It wasn't necessarily luckily I went to a game where we kicked ass 5-1.
That helps.
But yeah,
that's what got him in it. Yep.
Yeah, but the one thing that I took in was just the whole environment. And then the first thing I did was, and I hated soccer, right? And I called my wife and I said, hey, we got to go to a game. You got to come with me. She came with me. She fell in love with it. My son came with me and he fell in love with it. And so, I feel like there's so many people out there that potentially could be really, really strong fans and supporters of the team. We just got to make sure to sort of wrangle them up and bring them in, and I feel like the supporters groups do that.
So Southern Legion started with you guys.
Yeah, the whole supporters culture around Inter Miami, not to sound like egotistical or whatever, started with us. Yeah. It started with 3-4 guys that grew out from there. It was all Southern Legion at one point. And just like, anything, people can't get along. People have different visions, and it splinters.
Right.
And then it splinters again, and then maybe even a third or fourth time it keeps splintering, right. Which is not a bad thing, right? It's having, it's okay to have one strong one, but there's nothing wrong with having multiple groups that have different, angles. They're different thing that they kind of focus on, But yeah, we were the ones that were really pushing for MLS to come to Miami, and in every step of the way, doing whatever work we had to do to get it done. Nothing wrong with coming in at the last minute, but we did have a little bit of a pride to say that we helped bring it. Because there was a point where Marcelo Clore was giving up. And this is around the time, it almost happened a couple times, but the biggest time was just before Jorge Mas comes in. The deal was done. It was dead. And he was getting ready to give up. And the league came to him and said, just give it one more shot. Let's just stick it out a little bit longer. Let's see if we can find you a strong local owner. Because Marcelo Clore at that time was not considered really a local owner. He was, I think, at this point, I think he might have been living in Kansas City as he was the CEO of Sprint. And so Jorge Mas comes in and saves the day. This thing was dead. And we were, people, like Julio, who's got the ear of Jorge and has the ear of Marcelo, is just in their ears saying, don't give up, don't give up, don't give up. And I don't know how much that plays a part in the big picture, but we're doing whatever we could do. I mean, we don't have the money. So whatever we're doing is just in people's ears a little bit.
Well, and I think any little bit makes a difference, whether you're in the pockets or whether you're in the ears, whatever you're doing, it's showing, or whatever anybody is doing to show support and to show, hey, we got to make this happen. A little bit of that is definitely going to make a difference. No, Danny?
Yeah, for sure. So at what point was it that you guys finally got it going? Was it 15, 16? I can't remember exactly that you guys found out, okay, we're going to get a team.
Oh, geez. I don't even remember years. I'm bad with years at all. The only reason I know some of these other years is because we printed them up it's on a scarf.
Because the thing is, I remember I got into clubs. I wanted to get into MLS, but I need a rooting interest.
Right.
And it was 2013, and I was like, okay, I can't watch it unless I'm rooting for somebody. And I remember in 2015, there was going to be 2 new teams, Orlando and NYCFC. I'm originally from New York, so I either had to root for New York or Orlando. Those were the new teams. Sure. And I decided against Orlando, and I went NYCFC. I went NYCFC. I rooted for them, I want to say 2 or 3 years, and then I found out Miami was going to get a team. And then I was like, I'm all in on Miami. So that's kind of the...
We knew, I mean, we had a hashtag on our T-shirts, and eventually we had to change it. It was, hashtag on the Southern Legion T-shirts that we would make. It was hashtag MLS 20, hashtag MLS 21, hashtag MLS 22, because it kept. So we kept thinking we're going to be the next team. Then it was Orlando, then it was New York, and then it was you name it, and it wasn't us. And eventually we just called it MLS. We coined the phrase, I think, MLS Next before MLS did. We used it. It's on some of our T-shirts where it says MLS Next, because we just couldn't keep printing up T-shirts with random years that just don't happen.
Yeah, it's either that or you're taking some tape and you're just putting it right over the number.
Or not years, but they were team number. You're the 21st team, the 30th team, or whatever the number was. Yeah. But it just wasn't happening.
So Southern Legion, Vice City is obviously the biggest supporters group now.
Yeah.
And then Southern, are you still involved with Southern Legion?
Yeah, more so like as kind of the guy that just shows up once in a while, shakes some hands, and then
grab a beer,
talks about the old days, has a beer, and then leaves. I got to the point in where we felt like we did our job. We did everything we could to help bring the team to introduce. I don't want to say the supporters culture, because that's.
Well, you helped sort of
facilitate it.
You helped groom the.
Right. We helped start it. And we kind of, some of us, me and Ed, for example, did our job. And now we're just kind of the old men of Southern Legion. We just kind of hang around a little bit. I don't sit in the supporters club anymore. I'm 53 years old, man. I'm too old for that. So,
Hey, I don't sit in the supporters group side either. And I don't know if it's because I'm too old, or I just like to sit every once in a while. I like to sit. I go with my kids. I like them to sit. Yeah. So, but I've gone over there, right? We have some friends over there at Vice City, and it's definitely fun. But I mean, I like to sit down every once in a while,
But yeah, those guys in Vice City, they were part of Southern Legion at one point, like I said, and it's just they wanted to do things a little more radical Argentinian style, and we were kind of we wanted to be a little more all encompassing, including we wanted to have the visions. Yeah, and the visions changed. We wanted to have the ability to sing an English song here or there, or even if we had, Haitians sing a song in Creole or whatever. Creole. None of that's happening because it's just more Latinos over there than there are,
of course,
gringos.
Yeah.
So it's going to be whatever the mass group wants to sing. Yeah,
I think. I think that over time, obviously, groups have splintered and whatnot. But the one thing that cannot be denied is the fact that the supporters groups are the ones that really bring the intensity that this team needs in order for it to really, surge throughout, the stands.
Estebandito says Pieter Brown just collects the royalty checks nowadays.
I wish. just to get the team to notice us is a challenge.
So before we move on to current day Inter Miami talk, I wanted to throw some things your way, see if you remember them, and I wanted to show maybe Chris didn't know that they existed either. Now, I'm assuming you used to follow the MLS in its inception, right, from '96 onward. Even if you were deep in it, you paid attention.
It was funny too. Since the MLS season pass has come out, I've started to enjoy rewatching the early MLS Cups. So I was there from day one.
So there's a couple of things I wanted to show you. I wanted to see what you think about them now, 25, 30 years later, and see if either one of you think that maybe we should want to think about bringing them back. So here's the first one. If you're listening on podcast, I apologize. You have to jump on and watch this on YouTube. Because I'm going to show some videos right now. First one, good old NXT shootout. They used to start at midfield. The goalie would come out, meet you halfway. Now, Chris, I don't know if you knew about this, because I don't know if you were watching. Obviously, you weren't watching MLS back then. Would you like to see something like this in the current day MLS, Chris?
I mean, I think it's actually a good idea. I mean, if you really think about it, it's very similar to the penalty shots in hockey. I mean, not really. You don't see the goalie from hockey coming out like that, but you know, it's pretty similar. I guess it gives the opportunity to the goalie to go ahead and attack the attacker, so to say.
What do you think, Pieter Brown?
So one of the things you don't see in that video is there's also a shot clock off to the side. So yeah.
That I didn't remember.
Yeah, the guy, with the ball has a certain amount of time he has to get it off his feet. So I don't remember what the clock countdown was, 15 seconds, whatever. I'm not sure. But there was a shot clock and it was exciting. I see you wearing the Fusion shirt. I don't know how many Fusion games you went to, but okay.
To watch Carlos Valderrama. I moved down from New York down to Miami. Oh, they got a soccer team. They got Valderrama. I'm Colombian. I got to go see him. And that was it, though, because we lived down in Miami. It was too far of a drive for us back then.
Sure. Yeah, no, I went to all of them. I might have missed one or two games. And the shootout is exciting, but
it's too gimmicky.
You don't want to get away from what the world game is. That was the problem. We're trying to Americanize soccer, and that just doesn't work. Soccer purists do not like it. As exciting as that was, you were, biting your nails. I don't. I
personally, I'm not a fan of it. I'm not a big fan of it. If they were to, they're not going to obviously bring that back ever. But if that was a conversation, I would be against it because, like you said, it's way
it takes
too
away
far
from the purity
of what soccer is. And now that you brought that up, though, I do want to bring one thing up. This is completely against what soccer is around the world, but I am 100% for it. And it would be technically Americanizing it, but I would love for them to get rid of draws. I would love for them to go the hockey route. You play, the first 90 minutes ends in a draw, you go on to either OT or extra time, and then or PK shootout, and each team gets at least 1 point out of it. The winner gets 2 points. The person that ends up losing that extra time or the PKs gets 1 point, and we just get rid of the draws because I just don't understand what the point of the draws is.
Wait a minute. If you lose the penalty shootout, you still get a point?
If you end in hockey, because I'm a hockey fan also. I watch all 5 sports. If you end in a draw, the first 3 periods in hockey, you're guaranteed 1 point for ending in a draw. Isn't that what you kind of get anyway?
I mean, for a draw.
So then you get.
It's a heavy proposal. It's a heavy proposal. Danny
all we're doing is adding a PK so that the winning team of the PK gets an extra point. Why do we both need to end up with 1 point? Give me a victor.
I guess we should just continue playing forever and ever and just have golden goal then. No penalty shootouts. Just keep playing.
No. And give me the penalty shootout. So that's enticing TV. Everybody would be on the edge of their seats. So it makes everything a little more entertaining. And we get rid of the draws.
Part of the problem, not to be a Debbie Downer, is they also want to kind of put this in a 2-hour box. TV time.
That's what I said. PKs, straight shootout. That's what we're doing for the League Cup in the summertime. There's no draws in that League Cup.
Right.
You know what I would like to propose? I'd like to propose that if the game ends in a tie, the coaches come onto the field and shoot a PK to see who wins.
Our coach will win. He over someone
He's a former player.
Yeah. Got it. I know a lot of people don't like Neville, but I'll take him on PKs.
Yes, for sure.
Over some of these other
coaches.
MLS coaches. I mean, R.I.P. Ziggy Schmid, but that dude had a basketball under his shirt.
For sure. That
so
guy's
I couldn't
losing
imagine him
PK.
waddling up to take a PK.
Yeah.
Matches every week would be too long. How long does the PK shootout take? It takes like an extra 10 minutes. And tell me that PKs aren't the most entertaining extra time of any. When you're sitting down in the World Cup, when it was France and Argentina, and those PKs were going on, I was on the edge of my seat. not caring who won really, but it's a PK shootout. Give me an extra 10 minutes.
But that wasn't a regular, Wednesday night game. That was a game in order to move on to the next level, you had to win. We're not talking about just the Wednesday night game in the middle of the season where it really doesn't matter. People are gonna look. People don't stick around for the last 10 minutes of the game, anyways, because they're afraid there's going to be a crowd and they want to get in their cars. I mean, this is South Florida after all.
Look, I just hate draws. It's so un-American.
I mean, I don't know.
But it is the purity.
You get used to it.
It's the purity of the sport, Danny.
All right.
Yeah.
So a couple of quick ones. All right, here comes. This is an MLS All-Star Game skills challenge.
All four of them using the fewest amount of balls as possible. The tiebreaker, the guy who hits them in the quickest amount of time.
Yeah. Now I'll tell you, I watched this whole
coming up first
competition
from LA and from Brazil, Welton.
And I'm going to tell you what I think the issue is here. For those of you listening on audio, they have a bullseye in each four corner of the goalpost, and the player just has to hit four, and they have a minute to do so. I'm going to tell you what I think the issue was here. The issue was here that the skills competition showed how little skill there was in MLS at the time, because every competitor hit the bottom two bullseyes, and none of the competitors hit the top two. So I think that ultimately that's what ended up happening. They're like, you know what? The skills challenge, but we're looking kind of rough in these skill challenges. Now, they don't have what skill challenges do they have in the current MLS All-Star games? I'm not even sure if they have any.
I think they do. I think they've always kind of modeled their skills challenges off the NFL type of thing and stuff like that. I mean, what they should do is I think this would be a great skills challenge because they all play foot tennis or footy tennis, whatever you call it, in their locker rooms. That should be, and you can have, teams, 3-4 people, however many people fit around the box, however big they want to make it. That's a good all-star challenge. I'm all for wacky all-star challenges, the kind of challenges that you used to see on TV with the what was the name of those shows where they had the celebrities doing all these kind of challenges and things like that back in the days.
I think it was on MTV. No,
before MTV existed.
About to say Shock and Jock. Oh no, then I don't go back that far.
Yeah, because the Shock and Jock on MTV is where they had a lot of celebrities play.
Battle of the Network Stars. That's what it was. Battle of the Network Stars. I mean, doing ridiculous competitions. But of course, we want to try to keep some sort of soccer involved with it. But anything that's nutty like that. And here's the thing. There were definitely skilled players back in those early days. Welton was a hell of a player. But to your point, they are better today. So I think they would do a better job with that. Because I know that one of the things that they practice with a lot of teams is hitting the crossbar. They actually try to hit the crossbar. So I think
they do that for fun now.
Right. So I think they'd be good at that.
That's actually a skills challenge that I did see in the most recent All-Star game for MLS. So
I got a wacky for you. You want to see wacky? I got a wacky for you right here.
Goes for the arm. Look at Zach.
Here we got goalie wars.
To put it back
for those listening on audio, the goalies are just standing in front of each other, just scoring.
Very smart to get the hands out of the way on that one.
They're just blasting.
Zach gets a rope.
And you could kick, you could throw with your arms.
1-0 the West.
It's up to you, or you could just punt it. But
you got a big boy like Zach Thornton firing a ball at you at that range, man. You're gonna kill somebody.
Oh, those teeth are gone.
But let me tell you something. This looks entertaining as heck. I would be totally down to see Drake Callender in one of these. But so this is one that I didn't really remember existed. But when I saw this, I was like, man, that looks pretty entertaining. And I have one more to show you. Oh, actually, Thornton. This isn't one of the ones I was going to show, but I'll throw it up there just because you brought up Thornton. That boy had a cannon. They have a power one. Let's see who kicked the hardest.
God have mercy. 82 miles per hour.
He kicked at 82 miles an hour.
Jeez. Yeah.
But
yeah, he was
the last one.
Chicago Fire back then. Yeah.
There was one that was called Rapid Fire, and this one was my favorite. You guys tell me if you wouldn't mind seeing something like this.
Up first for Team USA, Ross Pauly, also from Colorado.
They just
Taking
have
on Thomas Ravelli in
the
net.
ball above the half circle.
By Ross. Oh, he's got the bonus. He's all over.
And you just fire away with the goalie there, and as many as you can. And they have orange balls that count for, I guess, extra points. I
like it
completely. I would love to see something like this again. Now, I don't know what kind of skill challenges they have in the MLS All-Star game now, but I would love to see something like this again.
And you could tell from that at the end of that image that they were at the ESPN
in
Orlando, yeah, which is where it usually is at.
Well, and Danny,
before
in years past, at least.
Oh, in years past, yeah. All right, so now moving on to current Inter Miami stuff. Now that we had our throwback fun, Drake Callender signed a new contract. He is now signed through 2025 with an option for 2026. Now, Drake Callender, for me personally, he came out of nowhere last year. I wasn't expecting him to be as good as he was. I thought Marsman was going to be the guy all year long. Obviously, everybody criticized his work with the ball at his feet, but he's been working on that. He hasn't looked as bad as my understanding, at least from what Alex told us. Alex Windley was on with us a couple weeks ago. He's looked better in the preseason. He looks good. I feel great knowing that we have him locked up until 2025. Did you expect anything from Drake last year, Peter?
Yeah, well, they had high hopes for him. I mean, they said that he was, a young player. They obtained his rights, his homegrown rights out of California, I think. So they had high hopes for him. But no, I mean, when I did see him play the few times, I was always nervous. He definitely grew a lot and grew fast. But it does remind me, you're wearing the Fusion shirt, it reminds me of Jeff Cassar, being the starting goalkeeper for the Miami Fusion. He gets injured, and then little Nicky Raimondo, and that's what Ray Hudson used to call him, little Nicky. Little Nicky Raimondo, takes it, and he's short, and he takes the job away from Jeff Cassar. Jeff Cassar was, at that time, a U.S. national team player, I think. And so he stole the job away from him. And, Jeff bounced around the league a little bit after that and found he didn't last that much longer. So my question, flipping it a little bit, is, yeah, Callender's he's doing great now. Why do we still have Marsman on the team?
Yes.
Got to find a way to get rid of Marsman. And did you see that Vasco da Gama game? You want to talk about somebody being bad with their feet? Now, I know it's a preseason game.
But you know what?
Damn, that was bad.
I know what you're going to say, because Marsman's strength is supposed to be with his feet, and then he had that blunder with his feet in that game. So I get that it's preseason, but if that's your strong,
embarrassing,
that's your skill area, right? That's where everybody's saying that this is what you have over Drake. You can't have those blunders, preseason or not. So I feel at that point, you had already lost your job. But like you said, I'm surprised he's still on the team. Is he there the whole year? I don't know. But I mean, this is obviously Drake's job to keep.
Yeah, I agree. And the only way Marsman gets on the field is if they need a rest calendar or he gets hurt. And there's more games this year, so with Leagues Cup and all that. So he still has a chance to play. But I know some fans are frustrated when they see teams signing goalkeepers. And some of these goalkeepers are being signed from within MLS. So they're moving from one MLS team to another. And they're like, what the heck? How do we still have Marsman? I assume Chris Henderson is shopping him and that just nobody's buying. I mean, he's an expensive backup at this point.
Yes.
He is an expensive backup.
I mean, at this point, he's an expensive backup, and I feel like maybe other teams are looking at other options and saying, I could probably get the same value for a way cheaper price. So they end up going with another player. I mean, at this point, and you brought up, in the beginning, Drake Callender, you saw him, and it was kind of, it would make you sort of think, oh man, I don't know. Like you said, in the last year, he really has matured in a rapid rate. and luckily his time playing has given him the opportunity to get that experience and make the best out of that experience. So that's the one
According
thing
to
that
Steve
I for
Munoz,
sure
Marsman's still here because of his hot wife. So
I haven't seen her.
Maybe that's a thing.
Just a little more color to this. Marsman is making last year made over $587,000.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't 612 for a DP? Isn't that?
Yeah. So he's not DP.
He's not there yet.
Drake made a measly 130,000.
Ooh.
Now we don't know what his new contract is. That won't get reported probably for another like 6 months or so on the MLS PA site. But what a disparity there.
Yes, it's
Big
huge.
time. But like I said, Drake, at least for me, he came out of nowhere. I had heard about him, but I never thought when he got that start last year, I was like, oh no.
But remember,
how's this gonna go?
He didn't start and go gangbusters. He played a few random games. He played in the Open Cup games, for example.
Right. He didn't start the season, even though Marsman was injured.
Yeah, but when he did play, it was shaky. Yes. So he learned quick. He absorbed everything fast. Experience obviously was the key for him. And I think sky's the limit. I mean, I know that Neville thinks he should be on the national team. He should have been called into the January camp. So he could see that maybe.
But he also thinks that Robbie Robinson could be a top-notch strike. And listen, I did a video on Robbie Robinson, so there's more pie in my face than anybody else's. But
Mr. Glass, that's what we call him, Mr. Glass, because
Mr. Glass
you just breathe on him and he's got an injury. I think he's injured again.
Yeah,
he's made out of paper mache.
Stretching hammies all over the place.
And the thing with Robinson, he does have potential. You see him at times, you're like, holy cow, this kid is getting better. In that Vasco da Gama game, when he came on, instantly, he looked promising. He was attacking. He looked good. He couldn't even finish that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I feel bad for the kid.
I did. Yeah, I did too. Because, like I said, I think he's hurt again. A minor.
I thought you were joking.
No, and I think I don't think that he's hurt in the sense of like a couple games hurt. But I did remember reading a report that he did pull like a muscle in the last game. So, I mean, I don't know. That's ticky-tacky. That's just like, everything's okay. He's fine.
With him, you got to be concerned.
That's the scary part. Now, talking about the games that these players have been playing in, and we basically are talking about some of the concerns, right? So, like, what do you think, Peter, is the biggest concern going into the new season? I mean, we're still in preseason at this point, but what do you think would be the biggest concern?
The fact that we lost Pozuelo, and so we don't have anybody pulling the strings in that. That's, I think, our biggest concern. I know people are excited about what Stefanelli can do. There may be something there, but we don't know. It's still a big question mark. So my biggest concern is the fact that, if it wasn't for Pozuelo, Higuaín would not have had the year that he had. He was the missing ingredient. And the fact that we couldn't lock him down, and maybe I don't get why. Because what they should have done, and I know nobody here is really the biggest fan of Pizarro. What they should have done is use their buyout clause on Pizarro, free, because they could buy out one player a year, buy out his contract, free up that DP, and give Pozuelo the money that he really wanted. He wanted DP money. Give him that DP money. I know we're still trying to hold on to a DP spot for potential Messi and potential Busquets or whatever, but they're using one right now with Pizarro, so I would have freed it up and given it.
But that's what happens when you have, obviously you have wealthy owners, but we don't have extremely wealthy owners. They're still trying to be careful with the money that they spend. They didn't want to just give up that money on the Pizarro buyout, because if you have somebody like, for example, Steve Cohen that just bought the Mets, he's constantly buying out players and just eating the money that it takes, and he doesn't think twice about it. When you have just a disgustingly rich owner, there's certain things you can do, but they're being more financially responsible, and They just didn't want to eat that money.
I don't know. That could be, but
Why else wouldn't they do it?
I think the Mosses are somewhat disgustingly rich, at least by my standards.
Kind of.
Well, definitely by my standards.
But
I mean,
I think we're in a holding pattern because of Messi. I think that's what it is. They don't want to
the Messi sweepstakes.
They don't want to pull any big triggers until Messi. And we've all heard the same reports. That they're still talking to him, that he hasn't signed his contract with PSG, that he's the negotiations aren't going well, and we're still in it. So I think the only problem is we need to find out whether this Messi thing is going to happen soon, because we can't play this waiting game all season. You can't be held hostage for one player. They've got to.
But if there's a player to be held hostage for, it's Lionel Messi.
Sure.
So,
but
so that's your concern. The number 10.
Do you want to wait though
until summer?
Summer's fine. We got to wait till summer. That's fine.
Yeah.
But
look,
do you want to wait till
up to
next summer?
Ugh.
No. We can't wait till next summer.
Exactly.
This summer coming up, if Messi doesn't sign with us, we still have that DP spot. It's the transfer window in Europe. We have plenty of players to go after. So I don't think if we don't get Messi, we'll get somebody. We're in Miami. Who doesn't want to come here? Everybody in Europe loves Miami. Like, I don't think it's going to be, at least let me take that back, because I thought it wouldn't be hard to get anybody. And all we've gotten is Higuain. But I would hope it's not too difficult to get a big name if Messi doesn't come this summer.
But that was the draw for keeping Pozuelo. We thought Pozuelo would stay and take less money because his girlfriend's from here and he loves it here. The draw of Miami was enough for him to take less money. And we heard that he was willing to take less money, just not
that much less.
That much less.
Whatever that was. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I get it.
So yeah, my biggest concern, I think they've shored up the defense. At least we think. We don't know about Christoph yet, but everything we hear, he's great.
Christoph.
Yeah. And Negri that we hear good things about. So another person I wonder about, why the hell is Gibbs still on this team? He's taken up a boatload of money as well.
Depth, because he could play. He could play left back and center back, so they're just keeping him for depth purposes, I'm assuming, because you have Mabika, Sailor, and then I guess Gibbs would be the fifth center back if they ever need it, injury and red card or whatnot.
But you can have one of your younger players doing that. You're spending $378,000 for a guy to play a couple of games a year.
And last year, watching Gibbs, and me as a new fan and just looking at FIFA cards, I was like, oh, this guy Gibbs, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, we got a good one here. But then when I watch him on the field, I'm like, wow, this guy is not good.
Because he's older now.
He's not as good as his card says on FIFA. What's happening here?
We didn't get that version of Gibbs.
Yeah.
Just like with Matuidi. We did not get the Matuidi. That
Matuidi was very disappointing. No, Matuidi was very disappointing. When he ended up just being the mascot at Brightline, it was just very disappointing, because I really wanted him to at least be on the field. Like, he could something, but that was disappointing. And the fact that our sanctions came from signing Matuidi was like a double egg in the face.
Yep.
I was hurt by the fact that Matuidi was a solid gold card in FIFA and was a solid turd on the field. Yeah. Or not even on the field, on the Brightline tour.
Yeah, on the Brightline.
And then this guy Gibbs had a special card on FIFA. And then I'm looking at him like, you got a special card on FIFA? I don't know what you're doing, guy.
And Gibbs got paid in crypto now that Steve brings that up.
Yeah, he
did. Which is
that was a mistake.
Yes, I think so. It might have been just a tad bit. I think Odell Beckham did the same thing. Chris, what's your biggest concern coming into this year?
It's the same thing as Pieter Brown said. It's the midfield. I mean, Stefanelli is mentioned to be sort of like this guy that could possibly be the person to sort of keep the glue in place. I mean, I don't know enough to know whether he's going to be effective or not, but I've been hearing a lot of good things about that. My biggest concern, other than that, is Bryce Duke. How long
getting playing time?
Yeah, boy. I mean, how long is Bryce Duke going to be playing the second fiddle here in the midfield until he just gets fed up and says, hey, let me go and explore some options, right? I mean, to me, Bryce Duke is a player that I feel like we should do the same sort of deal with Drake Callender, invest in him, give him some playing time, give him some experience. And eventually this is a kid that may pan out to be a focal piece in the team. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, Danny, but that's what I think.
I do. I'm trying to remember that Orlando game where we won 4-1. I think Pozuelo didn't play that game, did he? Wasn't Bryce Duke running the 10 that game?
I'm gonna look that up now, but
look, Bryce Duke, I've thought has all the skill set to run that number 10 spot, and I'm surprised that he's been overlooked, whether it be media members or absolutely anybody, even on Twitter. Nobody's bringing up Bryce Duke playing the number 10 role, and it just, I don't understand why, because I feel like he is made for that spot. He can run the 10, and maybe it's because he's been injured and he hasn't played much in the preseason. So maybe that's why he's being overlooked for the time being. But I think Bryce Duke is the Drake Callender of our midfield. He kind of came out of nowhere. I wasn't expecting too much. And when I saw him, I was like, this kid can ball. Let's get him on the field a little more.
Well, he did get a lot of chances this last year before Pozuelo
from what
came
I see,
in, so.
But before Pozuelo got there for sure.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Chris?
From what I see here, yeah, you're right. Pozuelo didn't play. And your boy Indiana Vasilev was actually seen as the midfielder.
The 10? Look, I know it's an unpopular decision, but I'll say it again, even though it pisses people off. I'm glad Indiana's gone. I never liked Indiana. Oh, well, too bad.
I agree, 100%.
Oh, there we go, Pieter Brown. I don't know why everybody's so obsessed with Indiana Vasilev. He scored 2 goals in a span of 10 minutes the whole season, and everybody's in love with him for those 2 goals in those 10 minutes.
They were beautiful goals. He was better his first season with us than he was in the second season. Big difference.
I thought that he was great coming off as an energy guy off the bench. That's when he was being effective in the first season, when he was coming off as a sub. This year, he started a lot of games. Look, I wasn't a big fan. That's just me, though.
They didn't have a lot of
biggest concern. Yeah, my biggest concern this season is the fact that we have Joseph Martinez and Campana both playing up top, and I feel like it's almost necessary to play with both of them up top. Yeah. So if it's not working with Pizarro or Stefanelli or whoever it may be behind them, that we are so locked in on playing with 2 up top that we won't change the formation to go back to wings or to change to a 4-2-4 or something. Like, I feel like I'm very worried that they're going to try to figure out how to make the 2 strikers work so much that we might kind of
we might default to that.
We might lock ourselves into that when we should be trying a different formation for the personnel that we have, because we have good wings. We have Lassiter, we have Robert Taylor, we have wings, but we're missing a 10 for that 4-4-2. And I'm kind of worried that without that 10, it's not going to work as well as we're hoping it will. And that's my concern, that maybe that's not going to work out.
I'm excited to see it. I love having 2 up top, or 3, like Steve Munoz is saying. Have a triple-headed monster, but I'm not a fan of having just 1 forward up top. So in this case, you got someone like Campana that can hold the ball while Martinez runs off him and he gets it to him, or vice versa. But Martinez is going to do a lot of holding.
Higuain played the 10 a couple games last year when he would start with Campana. They weren't really playing 2 up top. Higuain was kind of running the 10.
I know, and I was sure that Higuain would end up being the 10 for longer periods of time. I thought that was going, before we got Pozuelo, I thought that was going to be, because you see that with older players, they gradually move backward in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I thought that's what was going to happen. But Neville just said, nope, you're our goal scorer. We need you to stay up top as much as possible. Drop back once in a while, but you need to stay up top. And but I agree. He at times could have some brilliant passes and unlock Campana and stuff like that. But he's gone. But I'm excited to see what Campana and Martinez can do. As far as holding midfielders, I mean, we have to hope that Stefanelli can do the job. Jean Coco did pretty good in that preseason game, I thought.
Chris hates him.
This guy.
Well, we barely saw him. How can you hate
him?
That's
exactly. I'm right here with you, Peter.
Minutes. He played like 20 minutes last year.
Yeah, I mean, he couldn't even get off the plane properly. He got hurt off the steps.
But yet you're making love videos for Robbie Robinson, but hating on Coco. Isn't it the same?
Maybe
thing?
I'm a little irrational. Okay, all right, I'll work on that.
I'd say so. All right. So as we wind down here, Pieter Brown, we got the season starts February 25th. We more or less know the roster now. We don't really know who's going to be starting in the midfield as far as the 10 or the 8, but we more or less know top front 2, back 4, goalie. How do you see this season playing out? What do you predict, and what are your expectations?
Well, expectations playoffs. We have to make the playoffs, but I know Neville has said he's hoping for the 4 seed.
Yes.
I don't know about that. I don't think we're that much better. Of course, I don't know. That's the problem. We don't know. I'm not in the media. I'm not watching Stefanelli play or Negri and things like that. But from what we've seen, I don't think they've improved the team that much. So maybe one spot better.
Defensively, we improved a lot, I think.
But we think.
I mean, have we? I mean, do you even know of this Ukrainian player? Like, if he's really going to be that guy? I mean, look, I mentioned in one of our episodes that this guy played his whole career in the same league in Ukraine, right? I mean, I don't know too much about soccer, but I think if you're playing in your home country league, I don't know if that says too much in terms of like what it is that you have to offer as a skilled player. Maybe I'm wrong.
Let me put this out there. Last year, we played the first half of the season essentially with no DPs. Higuain either played like shit or he was benched. Matuidi was at the bright line, and who was the other one? And Pizarro was out on loan.
Pizarro was
loan. Yeah.
We had no DPs on the field for us, and even with that, we were doing okay up until the halfway point of the season before Pozuelo got there, and then we really took off. So I think since we played decent, maybe not great, but decent with no DPs. Now we're adding Joseph, which I know we're not paying him as a DP, but he's getting paid like a DP because Atlanta's paying that salary. So we have him as a DP. We have 2 DPs up top, basically.
But we have to hope that Martinez can find that old Martinez somewhere buried deep inside, because he has been a shell of his former self the last couple of years. So there's a lot of unknowns. I think if we are just slightly better than last year, we see improvement, and that's a good thing. But a lot of these people are playing for their contracts. Neville only has a 1-year contract, so he's got to show up.
I really believe that 1-year contract was done because look, Chris has been since the day he got that contract. I said that's a Messi move. They want Messi to choose his manager, and they give Neville the 1 year so that Messi can choose whether they bring him back or he goes and brings Tata Martino or something.
But Messi's going to come in here and he's going to say, okay, I want this one manager that I've had somewhere in Spain or something like that. This guy doesn't know anything about MLS. Quite often, those kind of managers take a long time to acclimate to the league. Neville's taken quite a while to acclimate. Yeah. And more often than not, they fail. Tata is one of the rare exceptions. I think.
Well, that's the thing, though. He was with Messi in Barcelona, and he's had success in Atlanta. So,
so you're thinking we bring in Tata himself? Okay, I got you.
Yeah. No, if Messi comes, that's who I think we would get. Yes.
I think that people are looking at me crazy when I say that I think Phil Neville's going to keep his job if we're like 4th or 3rd seed or higher.
Oh,
like people are thinking that no matter what, he's out of here, and I don't believe that.
No, if he ends up top 4, I think he earned to keep his job. He earned that right.
Phil gets some unnecessary hatred.
Yes, he does.
I don't think he deserves it. This team is better than the team he inherited. So, and I know we want to credit Chris Henderson for everything, but Neville coaches the players.
Yes.
He should get more credit than he is getting. Is he the best? No, but he is an improvement. Things are moving in the right direction. So if we get one seed higher in the playoffs, I think he's back. Now, of course, if we get Messi and he, dictates, I have to have my own manager, well, they're going to give him whatever the hell he wants. So then see you later, Neville.
Right. Last year, Inter ended up in the 6th seed, right? We ended up in the 6th seed, and ahead of us, Philadelphia, Montreal, New York City, New York Red Bulls, and Cincinnati. Now, when I look at this, Montreal and NYCFC have both, at least crumbled. Most people would assume they're going to take a dip because they've lost. And NYCFC has lost half their roster. So I think when you look at it along those lines, I don't think those teams are going to be better than us this year. So we could possibly move up. Now, of course, Orlando's going to be better. I think a lot of people are underestimating Toronto. I think Toronto's going to be better. They got Sean Johnson now. They got Insigne and Benedetti, I want to say his name is. I forgot how to pronounce it.
They got their 3 Italians.
Yeah, so other teams have improved also, but I think Miami has a chance to be the top 4. And like Chris said, I think top 4, top 3, you have to keep your job if you're Neville.
Yeah, but they're not getting the top 4 because they're markedly better. And that's the problem, is you get that top 4. Now all of a sudden you feel like, see how much better we are? No. The competition was just worse.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Possibility.
Yeah. Well, another thing is we were a great home team. We had 48 points. Of those 48 points, 33 came from home games, only 15 from road games. If we're just marginally better on the road, we could have ended up with the top 4 seed. We were only 5 points off of the 4th seed. So it's just, obviously we also won some late games that maybe we should have lost. So, you can look at it in many ways, but I think that we have a chance at a top 4 if Joseph Martinez is anywhere near what he was before, and Stefanelli can be halfway decent at the 10.
Yeah, I'm everything you're saying. I'm pumped for the season to start. I'll be there this weekend to see them play Austin. I assume you guys might be as well.
Yes,
I am more excited for the beginning of the season than. Well, I was gonna say I feel like this every beginning of every season, but I'm pumped. I'm ready to go.
All right. I have 2 quick questions. One came from Steve that I wanted to ask both you guys. The new kits, more or less all of them leaked or released today. Which one was your favorite? We can start off with you, Pieter Brown. Which one was your favorite?
Trying to remember back. I got one question though about the kits. What's up with all the kind of sublimation patterns that every team has to have? And it's gone nuts. That Seattle Sounders kit is atrocious. And they generally have nice looking kits. I know
everybody loved that jersey. Everybody
I know it's inspired by Bruce Lee, and it's blasphemous to dislike anything Bruce Lee related, but that's an awful looking shirt. I wouldn't say disgusting. That's an awful looking shirt.
I even thought it was weird because Yedlin retweeted it and put some fire emojis on the Seattle Sounders one.
That's because he likes Bruce Lee.
And he likes Seattle.
Well, yeah, that too. But I don't know. I think from top of my head, you can't hate on the Atlanta because that's kind of just classic looking. Yeah. But as far as what more newer designs, I kind of like the Philadelphia Unions.
That's the one I was going to go with also.
Because they also stripped down their logo. And I thought
they got rid of the crest. It was just the snake.
I was kind of cool. I would like to see us do something like that with just the herons. You remove everything else and just have the herons. Like one of my favorite T-shirts that I have is just got the herons on the back of the shirt. No other part of the logo. And I think it's cool. So I think maybe that one is my favorite. How about you guys?
Well, and I really liked the NYCFC one because I think that the pattern that it has is sort of like the subway tiles.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and so that I thought was really, really cool. That was really, really interesting.
All right. So I had just one last question for you, Pieter Brown. Me and Chris were having a debate earlier today.
Well, first, let me put this here. So Esteban Dito was asking if we're talking football or egg ball tonight. And this stems from after the Super Bowl when, of course, there was a game-winning field goal for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl against the Eagles. So go ahead, Danny.
All right, so they got into a back and forth about some stuff about field goals and penalties. But long story short, we got into a debate because Chris tried to tell me that making a field goal in the NFL is more difficult than making a penalty kick in soccer. I need you to settle this debate, Pieter Brown. What is more difficult, making a field goal in the NFL or making a penalty kick in soccer?
I'd say a field goal.
Oh,
I think anybody can keep the ball on the ground, right? No, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing in the world because I've missed penalty kicks doing those like goofy things that you just like, go up to as an adult. But
yes,
but getting the ball up in the air and getting that trajectory to go up, I think is probably harder than just rifling a ball to the left and getting the keeper go to the right. I'm not saying either one's easy. But
I'm not saying that for us. I'm saying for the professionals. The kicker has one job. He literally kicks every day, all day. All you have to do is be accurate and strong.
But I think that skill is probably harder than a penalty. That's just purely
but
the
you have somebody
technique
trying to
and
block
skill.
It is harder to kick an egg ball than it is to kick a circle ball.
Oh, you
right?
guys are both crazy. Now,
the one thing that I had mentioned to Danny and that I had mentioned on Twitter as well is that you have 11 people that are literally just drooling at the mouth wanting to block your field goal. And you have
people blocking them.
You have 9 guys. One of them is a snapper, which weighs like 100 pounds soaking wet because the snapper doesn't do anything else except snap. That's his only job in the team. And then you got to hope that the holder, who's the punter, holds the egg ball, as Esteban says, right? Good enough so the kicker can kick that egg ball, which is harder to kick, all the way like 30 yards over in between the yellow posts.
I could be wrong, but I doubt it. That's all I'm going to say on that one. All right. So
agree to disagree.
Pieter Brown, we thank you for being gracious and giving us your time. Appreciate the history lesson on South Florida soccer, supporters group, and everything that you've done to help bring Inter Miami down to Miami. And if you are listening or watching and you haven't watched it yet, Futbol Miami TV Sundays at
7 p.m. Yeah, join us. We have a fun group of people that are checking in live every week, and we try to communicate with the chatters quite a bit. We also take calls, voicemails if you want to leave that. So we try to be a fairly interactive show. So yeah, join us 7 p.m. Sunday nights.
And again, thank you very much for joining us. Chris, do you have anything more for the people?
No, man, this was an amazing episode. And again, I'll say the same thing. Thank you so much for being on, Peter. It was fantastic to hear some of your insights, some of your experience. And yeah, don't forget to catch a show, guys, on Sunday. Futbol Miami TV. Find it on Twitter. Find it on YouTube, on Napster, whatever you need to find it on.
Pieter Brown's been around so long, he still calls it Lockhart. I see you, Peter.
There you go.
All right. Well, if you're still listening all the way to the end, we appreciate you listening, and we'll catch you next week when we're going to have an official preview show the next episode, and then we'll talk to some people from Montreal so we can preview the game on Saturday nights.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week.